Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack from Emails That Sell.
Episode 21.
Can cold email work if you sell a B2C service or product?
In this episode, you'll learn that sending cold email directly to your audience may not be such a smart idea, and we'll cover a few better ways of going about it. We'll also talk about some examples of how to approach cold email in those concrete situations. And if you're planning a Kickstarter campaign, you don't want to miss it. If you're running a B2B type of business and you think this episode is not for you, well, a lot of the strategies we're talking about are applicable to pretty much all businesses. So you may want to stick around and take notes. How about we start by defining what B2C is?
B2C means, or is short for business to consumer, and it's different from our traditional podcast because we're usually talking about B2B style cold emails.
B2B meaning business to business.
There you go. So Salesforce is an example of a B2B software, and this microphone that I'm using is, in a lot of ways, traditional B2C product.
So can I just use cold email? If I have a B2C, let's say I want to sell a product, can I just go ahead and then use cold email?
Well, maybe a good place to start this conversation would be just acknowledging that traditional email, has been a tried and true channel for selling B2C products, since the internet was started. You check your inbox and you can see marketing automation emails from tons of B2C products. The question today is, can cold email work for that?
I do see in QuickMail from time to time people do try that, and it just doesn't work.
What doesn't work?
Well, they get flagged as spam very quickly, and their reply rate and their open rate drops tremendously. A typical example would be, hey, I got a Kickstarter idea, and they're going to try to mail, people they find commenting on blogs or a list of consumer, and that just doesn't go well at all. One of the big reasons for it, in my view, is that most of the personal emails are at gmail.com or at hotmail.com. And therefore, when those big inbox providers receive those emails and a lot of people just flag them as spam, then it's an easy one to say, hey, let's just discard this email. This is spam.
So maybe this is a good time to talk about list building if you have a B2C product or service.
How about we take some examples, Jack?
Yeah, that sounds good. So I'm running a Kickstarter campaign, Jeremy. What would you tell me to do if I asked you, how can I get my Kickstarter campaign to be successful using cold email?
Yeah, so the first thing is, when you actually start a Kickstarter campaign, you should have already a list. Definitely, I will try to identify who can be an influencer for my Kickstarter campaign. So if my Kickstarter is about, super sunglasses that also do sound, and a coffee if I press on a button, whatever kind of thing, I'll definitely try to figure out who's always, known for having cool sunglasses. So I'll be contacting, Casey Neistat or whoever is a YouTube influencer. And I'll just run a cold email campaign to them and say, hey, I'm thinking of launching this Kickstarter campaign. Would you be interested in, be an influencer on it? And if so, then what would be the deal? Another good example would be joint ventures. Like, are you interested in partnering with me for this product launch? Those are great spaces where you can still use cold email because you're trying to contact another business, yet it's a B2C type of business that you're building.
What's sort of nice about that is if you had to go directly to your end consumer, the number of people who would buy your product would be limited to the number of emails that you could find. Whereas if you contacted a couple influencers who did a really great job, you could sell thousands and thousands of units, by connecting with a handful of people. It's much more scalable. Is there a few other examples of using cold email that we can discuss to maybe drum up some ideas for folks out there who might want to sell more or promote their B2C product?
There is another one as well, which is funding, finding capital. That's also something that a lot of B2C businesses crave for to some extent. And they can contact investors using cold emails. And that's been proven to work very well.
I have an exception to that rule of never contacting the end consumer, although it's not a cold email specifically, but I do think you can use sales automation to contact customers to get some good product feedback, or maybe even get them to leave a testimonial. This might be something to test if you've tried sending marketing automation to get people to leave reviews or feedback, and they just haven't been replying to those emails. Sending sales automation emails could maybe be the tool you need to get them engaged, because it's a one-to-one message.
If you have a marketing automation tool as well, they will think that your sales automation is genuine. It's like, oh, this is from that person, where the other one was obvious that it was a newsletter or something like that.
I've got another one that might be interesting to try out. So use cold email to get some PR going for your B2C business. So you can get featured in a magazine if you cold emailed the right editor. You might be able to speak at a trade show that has a lot of vendors who might sell your product, and maybe even celebrity endorsements if you get lucky or send the right email to the right number of people. Let's talk about the law. Is it legal to send B2C cold email?
In Europe, this isn't legal. And in England, there is a bit of challenge actually on this front, because it's illegal to send to an individual a cold email. It's also illegal to send it to a contractor. And knowing the difference between a contractor and a company is something that is difficult. How is it in America?
In the US, it seems like maybe there's a way around sending a cold email to consumers to sell a product. But if there is, I wouldn't even bother with it, because we've talked about different and just more efficient ways of getting your product out there by contacting someone on the next level up who has influence over the end consumers that you want. One other way that B2C companies might benefit from cold email is if they wanted to maybe team up with another brand, or maybe you're writing a book and you want to have a co-author on your next project. Reaching out to others that can collaborate with you on your next product or service, whatever that may be, could help you shortcut a couple things, or it could aid with the product development side.
So all the things we've been saying does apply to B2B as well. Reason for that is I can contact a business who has a lot of influence over other businesses, right? Like think of a redistributor, for example, or some consultant businesses who then will be able to then sell your product to other ones as well. So all those thinking we've been applying here, founding is also a good one. Joint venture is also another one you can use. So they're all applicable to B2B. But in B2B, it's also easy to go directly to your audience, who will then be your direct buyer. With B2C, you have to be a bit more clever about it.
I suppose the final takeaway here is think about all of the influencers within your market. Who is in front of people who will end up being your customers. It could be online shops. It could be wholesale buyers. It could be a trade show that has hundreds of different vendors attending who all could potentially buy your product to stock in their store. The question that I think you should always be asking is, where should I be having these conversations to have the most impact? For example, you could contact one blogger who maybe has an audience of a couple thousand, or you can target one trade show that will get you in to 100 different retail shops that see millions of visitors a year. Okay, so today's cast, we learned that you can multiply your results by using cold email to contact key influencers instead of your end consumers. We also talked about how not every influencer is equal. So think about the people, businesses, brands, and events, and how much they can impact your business to decide who you should contact. Finally, there's always a good way to use cold email to grow your business, even if you're against contacting your potential customers directly via email.